I'll just start it off here. One of the biggest moves recently with the Braves is that we got a new manager, Walt Weiss. He was a bench coach for a while, used to be the manager for the Rockies, so he does have a lot of experience. I want to talk to these guys in particular about their view on that, mainly because Pete and Bruce both had the opportunity to play under Bobby Cox, obviously Hall of Fame manager, and Charlie played under Snit, a future Hall of Fame manager. So what did you guys think of the move? And really on a larger scale, can you talk about what a manager provides for a leadership for a team and how does that work, that dynamic?
Well, my first thought when you walk out the job is I couldn't be happy for him. Boss. I've known Walt. We all have known Walt for a long time, and he's a quality person. He had a chance to manage the Rockies, but he gets a second chance here. So he's very familiar with the organization, the players, and how things work here, what's expected. The culture that's been set here, knows how that goes. So I'm really, really happy for him. Got a chance to play for Bobby Cox. And one of the things that I really like about Bobby is overused, but he was kind of like a man's man. I mean, he had your back. He had your back every single day. And he had very few rules. You need to wear the uniform right, and you need to be on time, and you need to play hard. Those were his three rules. You could do that, everything's going to be just fine. Pretty much left you alone. That's kind of our fantasy game. So, wear the uniform right, be on time.
So all three of these guys are managers at our fantasy game. So if you're interested in that, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we talk about that. Anyway, but I certainly enjoyed Robbie, and Brian Stinker is one of my best friends. And I was telling the story a minute ago that they were talking about whether he was coming back or going in from office. And I was sitting in his office before I did an appearance, and Alex Anthopoulos walks in, and they start talking about it, whether he's coming back or not. And they're discussing going back and forth. Like, I raised my hand and said, do I need to leave them with him? And Alex was, no, you're all right. I got a what I thought about. But seems to be a very personal friend of mine, and he'll do great in Wise position. And I love it. Right.
So I had a chance to actually play for Walt in Colorado. And I guess when the news came out last week that Walt was the manager, a few people reached out to me, asking me what I thought. And you go online and you see all the comments. I said, honestly, I think that's a great thing that people have opinions. And you like it or don't like it, that means that they truly care about this team and this organization. A storied franchise. You can see all the great names on the screen out there, a lot of record holders. And we got all-stars here, not myself. But I think a guy like Walt Weiss being able to play for Colorado, not too many guys can win in Colorado. No matter what kind of team you have, it's just tough to win there. So for him to get that second chance here, and he played here back in the late 90s. He was a bench coach here for the last 8 years. And so going back to what is a good manager, I think it's a good communicator. And it's somebody that obviously being in the managing position, whether it's baseball or outside baseball, it's like you got to be able to communicate well with everybody. And I think that Walt did a very good job of doing that. With a guy like myself, who was a utility player, keeping me someone in check, keeping me up to date on opposing teams, situations that I could be involved in late in the game if I wasn't starting. And so I think he did a really good job of doing that. And again, it's baseball, the culture here. This is a guy that knows the game. He knows what is expected of fans here as well, because you guys fill the seats up all the time. And so I think that's there's a high expectation when you send them to a role like he's sent them into. And there's a good reason why he was named the next manager. I don't think there was a need from the Braves to go outside and go younger or whatever. I think the opinions are great. We all know that they have to change some of the coaching staff. That's just kind of part of it when the new manager comes in. But Walt Weiss is a guy that I said it before, he'll run through a brick wall for you. And it's kind of like Bobby Cox has your back. And a guy like Walt Weiss will have your back. I would love to, if I had a chance to, I would definitely love to coach with Walt. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I know, right? Maybe it's not here. No, it's someone that I would love to work for. I love playing for him. I would run through a brick wall for Walt Weiss because I know that he would do that for us. So I think the Braves are great hands with Walt Weiss being the new manager. He had a tough position to be in, but a position that a guy like Walt will be able to do with the right people. A healthy team is huge too, right? I don't think anybody could win when you have that many guys that are injured and star players. It's tough for guys to come in and step up, but it allows young players to come in and get a shot to play, which is, I think, a great thing. So I'm all over Walt. You here, I'm going to root for me, and hopefully this team will come out and play well and win next year. I don't know Walt. Say Braves play. Well, been here for years. What's the system? It's been working. We've won more titles, playoffs, and we were playing, put together a winning combination that works. Right. Having managers that have your back, but if you're always on the same page, play the right way, you don't do stupid things. If you do, you're not going to be very so.
Is there a player that comes into mind that was a teammate of your guys's that kept you in check also, not on the coaching staff?
My player was Bruce Bennett. Bruce kind of took Tommy Glavine and myself under his wing and would land. Chicago saying, like, hey, we're sport coach, be down in Milwaukee, 10 minutes. And you take us out to dinner. And we just talk baseball, talk about what it is to be a professional baseball player, what it is to be a major leaguer. How do you act? Yes, you got to have some time to maybe go off the rail a little bit. Remember, kids are watching you. You're representing the Braves. It's the Braves way. It's just do the right thing.
Charlie, what about you, player-wise? Who was the real presence in the locker?
And there's as you guys have said not to me, but one guy that I honestly loved to play with was Kurt Sweet. Kurt was a guy that didn't catch every day, and then his career, he kind of split time with Tyler Flowers. But Kurt, we were kind of in a similar role here with the Braves. We weren't playing all the time, and so we kind of kept each other going with a good routine. He was a veteran at the time, just a great human being that had been around the game for a long time. And I took me under his wing here in Atlanta. And then a guy that led by example, Mark Angus. Nick was a man of few words. If you remember watching Nick, but he showed up to play every single day. And then that's kind of the Braves way as well, as seeing a guy like Freddie Freeman, seeing Matt Olson, who's got almost 800 straight innings. He hasn't missed. That's just kind of unheard of nowadays. Austin Riley, even Ozzie. These are some of the core players that are playing even when they're hurt, and you would never know it. And so that's not the Braves way. It's just guys showing up, doing their job, doing their part, and not complaining about it. So there's just a few of the guys that I really enjoyed. But sometimes the guys that didn't even have to say much are the ones that you kind of follow because they led by example. And then I try my best to do the same thing, try to lead by example. Do my part. Everyone had a role. You knew your role. If a coach didn't have to say anything to you, felt you were doing your job. Didn't say much. You just watched them for. Yeah, it's just like even when Gail Murphy, Gail was a Mormon, had a number of children. Yeah, he had a lot of children, so Gail was in a tough spot. We had this family man. We used to kid him all the time that he would be kind of the last guy to get there, the first one to leave it. Once he got there, he played every day. He led by example. Way he went about his business every day. Chris Chambliss, who was our first baseman, the way that he went about his business. And Phil Nebro, who was in the Hall of Fame, the way that he went about his business in a few words. But we would sneak up together every now and then and give you some advice, maybe how to think about something, the next time. But it was expected of you. I played with a lot of guys that played so hard every day. Ray Buckler, Lynn Homer, Chris Chambliss, and Murphy, their leader, Gene Garver, Phil Nebro. Guys that just came in and you didn't want to disappoint. They wanted to disappoint them. You didn't want to disappoint the Braves fans or the Braves culture of the Braves truth. Some of them were all going to the fantasy camp. And I tell all the fantasy campers, we get down there the first day. So I don't know if it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm over in that clubhouse. And I put that in the thinking. It's the first thing I do because now you don't get a chance to do that. It means so much to me. At 6 a.m. I'm over in that clubhouse when they're over.
That's awesome. I think in particular these three alumni are really cool because it represents kind of three different decades. Deep in the 90s, Charlie in the 2010s, and Bruce in the 80s. Can you guys talk about how baseball has changed in that time and what you think is good and bad with the direction that we're going?
One of the things that I talk about all the time is that, baseball used to sort of police itself, take care of itself with guys. One of the things that I'm upset with now is that like players embarrass other players on the field, with home runs, flipping bats, and jumping up and down. Whatever. It's fine if you do it. I know one thing. I don't want to speak for everybody in here, but I bet I can say nobody in this room wants to be showing up. Nobody in this room wants to be embarrassed. So and if you give that, you pay for it. I mean, you pay for it. It's slipped. Yeah, it's slipped. I didn't mean it to. And then, by the way, like baseball took care of itself, that way. And if you had an element in just one course, then it's over. The baseball's kind of put a stop to that. Now you can't really do much about it.
Tell them, Mark.
Oh, the Marlins, yeah, the Marlins. Well, they get a memo. And Mark Christmas, and I'm going to be quite honest. You think I even mentioned this? Said you got to tell Ronald to quit jumping around after it's over, because people don't like that. They don't like to be showing up the players. Once you get into the Marlins overboard, it's because there's no doubt. It hurts. Pull you above the shoulders. But if you'd have toned it down a little bit, it would bring on more. And I'm telling you that when I play, clearly it was not. I don't think Dale Murphy, I don't know how many home runs he gets. I don't think he ever saw any one of them like him. I don't think he ever saw them. He just ran around the base. First baseman, like, but yeah. So that's one of the things. Baseball's gotten a little bit out of hand. They don't let baseball take care of their own business. What's Florida takes care of their own business? They get that police. There's a code there. You got to adhere to.
They do. My generation of playing, it's kind of leaning more to the analytical side of things with exit velocities and, how fast you are, obviously how hard you hit the baseball. I was a player that didn't do anything like exceptionally great. I hit the ball super hard all the time, but I was the guy who played everywhere. I thought that kind of helped me as a player to kind of stick around. There are a lot of very talented baseball players. Like the guys have gone, more guys have gone off extra miles than I would assume. But I feel like baseball is so, a lot of these teams are locked in on numbers. And there are still very good all around baseball players. But I think that's probably one of the biggest changes is that you probably don't see the same baseball players. Am I correct? Like getting a guy over from second base to third base to nobody out, whether that's a punt or if you don't love the ball, you're moving them over, getting them in, low base less than 2 outs. There's a lot of guys that are trying to, hit home runs and drive the ball more, which is great because there's guys out there that can do it. But for me, I think the amount of pushing me out of the game a little bit, which is okay, but I think getting back to the small ball and doing the little things the right way. Just listening to guys on TV now talking about the game, I'm sure it might irritate someone like John Schultz when he's happened to commentate some of these games. But I think it's probably the biggest thing that I've seen in my playing days that changed more of the analytical side. And then when you get to the postseason, teams that win are the ones that do all the little things right. It's not all about the long ball. I mean, I love baseball, but it's a game.
So it's a little frustrating. The game's fine, but I do hope these have the same. There's no small ball. There's no issue contact. You're on up to from 95 pitches in this third inning. Complete game like that. Just pitch the contact. Plus you stop. 7 guys behind you. So it's a little frustrating. It's power. They won't sit on runs. It's just a different time. So I don't really know how to answer that question, truthfully. It's still a fun game to watch. I don't get it. That's for individual. I like the old school when you game, you get 9 players out.
All right, last question before I hand it back to you guys. The most absurd, funny, family-friendly thing a fan has ever said to you. during a game, heckling wise? And if you can't think of something specific, talk about kind of what stadium was the most fun atmosphere to play in because of it.
I just told Benny this. And so this is we were doing the Chevy Clinic this past year. You know, the Chevy Clinic where the player we're signing autographs from kids. And he said, "Go sign anything you want. Your hats, gloves, that's whatever." He said, one little kid conducts me for 7. He goes, "Would you sign this for Freddie Freeman?" So I can't sign Freddie's autographs. I love playing in Chicago. You could feel the atmosphere, fans right on top of you, especially if the wind's blown in.
I think the best visiting ballpark with the nicest fans were in St. Louis. Those fans were great. A few times I played there. But I made a nice play, and they were applauding me. And you don't get that too many times on the road. But then you got the baseball people that know they got the baseball. We went to San Francisco one time playing with the Dodgers. I had a go-ahead RBI double in the 10th inning, and then I was waiting to play left field. And I was standing there in the bottom of the 10th inning in left field, and all of a sudden I see all these Jolly Ranchers all around me. I turned around, and I had fans and left field throwing Jolly Ranchers at me. Luckily, none of them hit me, but I did have a few snacks after the game. So, I've probably a couple of R-rated ones. New York Yankees playing in Yankee Stadium, not the best for fans, but I mean, that's the story for another time.
I'm like Pete. I love Ringling Field in Chicago. Because back then they didn't have any lights. There were no lights. So all the games were at 1:00 in the afternoon. So a lot of family came in town. So you got to spend time with your family at the end of the day, you know, and in the early evening. Wrigley Field is my favorite place. One of the best lines I ever heard, my youngest son, Griffin, who went to Georgia Southern, All-American baseball player at Georgia Southern, he was playing, he played 3.5 years in the minor leagues. He was in, playing for the Fort Wayne Team Cavs, you know, in A-ball. And I went to see him, and I'm sitting in the stands, and he was batting. Nobody knew, but I was there at that. Whatever. So I'm sitting in the stands, and Griffin's batting, and he swings and misses a pitch, and the guy had 3 more seats sitting next to me goes, "Eat a Snickers. You're starting to play like your dad." So, yeah, you go ahead and eat a Snickers.
Did you say anything to him?
No, I just sat there. One of the things there. Anyway.
All right, questions. Who's got a question?
How many home runs did you get?
Wow.
That was one of the conditions, though, that I signed up to do this thing. Because I know what he's going to ask, and I was, how many home runs did you hit? How many bases you stole? In 12 years, how many you hit? I mean, I said 18 a month. Yeah, I guess.
Well,
How many runs?
I've had 30 home runs in my career, and 1 in the World Series, so 31 total. But yeah, some guys, like Kyle Lowry, hit 60 over 60 in one season. But yeah, I'll take my 30 home runs.
Was the toughest stadium to play?
No, against.
And it's from the battery zone. From like the upper deck.
Yeah,
Bro. I was warming up on Mike Schmidt Day, retiring his jersey. Probably 88. And they started screaming, talking to the fans. So I actually didn't stop warming on it. But Mike was out.
there you go.
Philly's tough. Uncomfortable weather lines we've ever known good about today. The whole park, and it's just so only this ballpark when the sun goes down on the planet. I mean, it is very uncomfortable. We have guys go to play wearing ski gloves, so they hit because it was that very uncomfortable place to play. There, I don't know about 12 years. I don't know. I guess we could look that up, but we could look that up. But you know, a lot of games. So you play 162 games during the season. So hopefully you win around, you know, 90 to 100, right? Somewhere in that. Yeah, that's the goal, win 90 to 100. He wants to try to get in the postseason play. So we played on some new teams and played on some teams that aren't. So Walt.
Bench coach.
What's your job? What is it in the last 8 years? I did it for 3 years in New York from 97, 98, and 99 for Bobby Valentine when he was coach of the bench. I was the bench coach. And what I think the bench coach does is try to keep the manager abreast of what might happen. Who do they want to, who's available, what moves they might make, who they might pinch hit, just keeping the bias so nothing catches it by surprise. Nothing's if I didn't see that coming. So you're there to say, hey, we've got, so, we've got, it's, and basically a support system. Because managers need a support system. And just be next to them and say, hey, the one round so and so, we got this guy left. Just keep it with price of what might be coming in 2 or 3 innings. Players that are available, who's hot for them, come off the bench, who's not, come off the bench, matchup that he may like, pitching lines, like groundbreaking. So just keep him abreast, maybe a couple, 3 innings. And like Tully said, I think you talked about it. Look, he would come out and say, hey, we might need you in the 7th. You're going to go in for defense in the 7th. And keep players ready to go. Manager would go, hey, don't tell him that he's helped 4 things to go out and say, hey, who's your bench at 4? Hey, you're going to go in and play defense. Well, that kind of stuff. Manager doesn't do that. The bench ups and takes care of those things.
Yeah, and the coaching staff, they do all the homework before he starts too. So they're already, many Walt as a bench coach, and you probably did it as well. For a lineup sheet, you might write a few notes down for what guys are available in the bullpen at night, who's down, which one of your guys are best fit for certain positions, matchups late in the game versus a reliever, certain guys that you want to hold off on, whether it's about texture, or a guy that can play everywhere, or who's your first out on the bench. But yeah, definitely